we've got a couple of days till we've got to be at the track, so it's about Thursday, is it?
I think it's Thursday.
Thursday, yeah. So today we just had a bit of a rest and went shopping and bought some stuff we thought we might need.
Flip-flop 50 cents, bro. We just found this on the bench of AutoZone in Georgia, and it's a barra from an FG, which they never got here.
We've grabbed a few more insulation things. We're going to do chop up some more stuff and just heat manage stuff that never happens on the drag strip, but because you got to actually drive your drag car on the road, and that's why we're here. That's the thing. But we're on top of it. I think we're going good.
Yeah, I think we're going pretty good. Gave her a good tub today too. It's been pretty filthy between sitting in the container for 40-something days and sitting in holding yard. It was just completely filthy, and there's also been a lot of dirty hand marks and stuff. So
I've never seen him wash a car.
Alan cleaning a car. You must love the Cresta. Obviously, it still looks fairly like a street car. We've got to do all the signage in the next day or so. We'll probably work that out. As Al said, we've just got to address a few more little thermal control issues. We're going to get into that soon. Now that the day's cooled off, it's about 6 p.m. So we've now got some shade on this side. It's a bit cooler, so we'll rip into it before it gets too dark and before it's too late, so we don't upset everyone here. We've got to be pretty conscious of noise control. So we'll probably work for an hour and a half or so and get what we can done tonight. Then we've got all day tomorrow to sort of continue tweaking and getting stuff 100%, because the testing doesn't start till 6 p.m. at the track tomorrow night. And we do have to get a chassis cert before we can do any passes. So hopefully we'll be able to get a chassis cert tomorrow or tomorrow evening at the track. Then we'll be able to get a few test passes in tomorrow before we actually start the race on Sunday. Start the race on Monday. So see how we go. But all things considered, it's doing amazingly well, and we're all pretty happy with the progress and with the lack of issues, touch wood.
One of the things you probably don't think about it, being a passenger in a car like this, is that's really not meant to be driven on the freeway or interstate at speed, is the noise. This thing is pretty mild when it comes to drag cars. It does a good time, but it's reasonably quiet. You don't really notice it when you're using it just as a drag vehicle. But when we're in the interstate doing 70 mile an hour, it's just booming its head off, and we've got earplugs and we've got ear muffs full on, but it's still really loud. So we've dealt with some of the heat issues we've got, which is just nothing to do with us, but actually inside the car there's a lot of heat issues as well, because some of the floor carpet's missing, and where the full-length setup's been built, and we're going to have to lag that with. We went to Home Depot and got some insulation stuff that you use on roof. So it's like a silver foil with bitumen inside it with a silver foil adhesive. So we're going to stick some of that in it as well. It's a bit of comfort, make it bearable. We've got a long way to go. Hats off to the guys that have got 6-second cars with huge exhaust and everything. I don't know how they do it, because our car's virtually a stocker compared to theirs. So yeah, hats off to them. Originally we were going to run this further forward and put the oil hose through there, but then we thought it again in the Home Depot car park that we'd probably cook the oil hose instead of cooking everything. So we decided to move it back a little bit, and that little gap there actually made a little chute for heat to get out, and that melted the coil plastic cover a bit more, so we knew we had to shut it in, but I'd forgotten that I'd actually just folded it over, so I just folded it back and we'll give it a little bash and we're sorted. Then we're just going to lag everything else with the heat tape we got from the auto parts store, so hopefully we'll be good. We'll find out. We're actually only going to use this for transport stages, because that's only when you get that intense heat going when you're towing that trailer on the interstate or whatever at high speed. So just really creates a lot of heat that we've never experienced with the car before because it hasn't been used for that purpose. So we'll take it off when we're out on the track because it's a little bit ugly. I did my best out of Home Depot stuff, but it's not brilliant. I found a can at our skid factory. Stubby coolers can actually accommodate. Normally they're like this big. That's like way too much lemon squash to have at once. It gets a bit sickly. Too much sugar.
Just removing the top spark plug coil cover. We've melted a few holes in it, so we're just going to trim it a bit higher. And we're going to also put some foil and fiberglass heat suppression tape along the edge of the rock cover. Not only to protect the rock cover, but also to avoid more heat going into the top end than is required. We're also going to put the same tape on the brake master cylinder reservoir and whatever else we can see that we think requires it as we go. But the main thermal issues we've had are melting this cover, and the brake master cylinder reservoir has also gotten a bit warm. So obviously, in interest of longevity, we want to protect both of these parts and avoid any engine bay fires, which would be less than ideal. Up with a razor blade and should be good to go.
You used that thing before, Benny, you know what you're doing.
Stanley knife?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used it there once. About 8 o'clock at night, we've finished up for the day, so Al's just made a little adjustment to our heat shield. We've added some thermal protection on the rock cover and the master cylinder. We're just packing up now, so got to go and grab my old man from the airport, and then we'll go and have a feed and get back into it tomorrow.
After a successful airport pickup and pickup of some local fauna, the guys pack up the trailer and get ready for an early start back on the road.
Be free.
Commerce is home to Atlanta Dragway, which was originally levelled out to be an airport complete with control tower. But the planes got chopped and instead it got turned into a dragway. It used to only open twice a year for big events back when it was owned by an ex-pro footballer. Eventually, the National Hot Rod Association bought it and transformed it into the world-class facility that it is today.
We're out here at Atlanta Dragway in Commerce, which is in Georgia. We've spent the day just tinkering around with the car again. It hasn't been a particularly busy day. We've added a heap of sound deadening that we've bought from Home Depot to try and make it a bit more comfortable for the backseat passengers. I've changed the front brake pads, just gone under and done a spanner check of the front end, given the whole car a once over. Everything's still looking really good, just tweaking stuff, so not particularly fussed about it. We're just gonna go out on the track and probably do a couple of test launches more than anything. Today's test and tune's limited to 11.0, so the second we go quicker than 11.0, we're going to obviously be asked not to race again. So we're probably just going to practice like 60-foot times to see what the adhesion of the track's like, and that'll give us a pretty good idea on how to sort of start the day on Monday, because our strategy at this stage for Dragweek is trying to do one pass and then just continue on to the next track so that we've got the most amount of time possible. If we have a drama on the side of the road, we can go to a parts store or find some other stuff. Just seeing the background, there's another Aussie competitor just rocked up, so it's pretty cool. Unfortunately, it has been confirmed today that 4 Aussie cars actually haven't made it. Their paperwork was incorrect. So US Customs is super duper strict on that. They've clamped down really hard on these guys, unfortunately, so they're out of the race. They're actually looking at buying cars or renting cars at the moment. I saw Jamie Farmer, one of the guys from Queensland, I saw he was trying to find a Fox body Mustang. And so one of the other guys is looking for whatever they can find. It's pretty devastating. I feel really bad for these guys, because the one thing I was super stressed about was customs paperwork and making sure that everything was spot on, because I had a feeling something like this may happen. So yeah, my heart goes out to those guys, because it's just absolutely devastating to come all this way only to lose out at the last minute. So
LS in it, mate.
Don't want to go slow. How many do you want, dude? Are they spares? We only brought one spare.
You haven't finished yet.
Hey?
You haven't finished yet.
Haven't started yet.
I've got spares in case you need them. If you want to step up.
I reckon we could probably do an LS conversion in about 25 minutes.
Well, that's a drop in, dude.
It's already got a 400. Should be right. Cool. Let's unpack and we'll get into it.
Benny and the guys have arrived a few days early to iron out any issues with the car. The first step is to swap the street tyres for the brand new 275 drag radials, so he's ready to go down the strip. Next up, Benny will head out for his first scrutineering inspection in the USA.
We're just heading down to tech inspection now. They'll, same as any other track really, they just check the car over, make sure you got no loose stuff in the car. Hopefully they'll just have a brief look and not give us too much of a hard time, but I guess we'll see what happens. There's already stacks of cars here. I've seen quite a few cars here that are definitely in the Dragweek crowd, so good to see a few guys out here early having a bit of a test. As I mentioned earlier, there is another Aussie guy already here, and that is a car from Australia, so that's pretty cool.
After a close check of all the safety gear on the car and making sure there's nothing leaking out of it, the Cresta is signed off and ready to test on the track.
He's looked at the car and gone, obviously it's not a total pile of junk. He was pretty happy with it, signed it off. We've also elected to have no times displayed on the car, mainly because the car's not currently teched. So that's something we are going to sort out tomorrow. But we were advised just to put no time down if we want to race tonight, all night. Otherwise, if they display our time without the car being teched, we'll be asked not to race anymore. So good little handy tip for the local track. One of the guys gave us, so that means we've got a full night of racing and testing without being worried about being kicked out. So good for us to get a few passes in. The air temp's a little bit of an issue right now, but in saying that, we're probably going to be racing this same weather all week, so it may be handy to give it a bit of a test.
Plenty of room. I don't know what you're whinging about.
With the tyre pressures set to race mode, Benny makes his way to the staging lanes, meets some fans and engages the bonnet closing sequence, preparing for his very first pass on US soil.
I won't lie, that was pretty nerve-wracking. It's the first time I've driven this car in about 2.5 months, so a little bit unexpected, but it's definitely moving. I don't think it was as quick as it's gone before. It did feel a little bit slow. I'd say it's probably, at a guess, probably a 950 at 145, somewhere thereabouts. So I'll rip the helmet off and go to the time shed and see what they have to say.
Where you from, my man?
Sydney.
Wow.
We brought the car over for Dragweek.
Oh, yeah. Been meeting,
Thank you. Have a good one. I'll see you later. Fantastic. Cheers. We've just done our first pass, so pretty happy with that. We've gone 9.8 at 142.9. The 60 foot's lazy as, so 168. That's the big drop in the time. So if I can get that down to a 1.3, we're looking at 9.2s pretty much straight away. So I bumped up the launch control 250 RPM. We'll see if it blows the tyres off. If it doesn't, we'll just keep upping the revs until it does spin tyres, and then we'll come back 100 RPM, or we'll find the limit of the converter. So one or the other will get some results pretty quickly by the looks. So fingers crossed the weather holds out, but there's not a lot of cars here. There's only probably 40 or 50 cars, so it's only a sort of a 10 to 15 minute wait to get another pass in. So we've got, yeah, there's definitely going to be plenty of runs tonight, obviously pending the weather. It does look a little bit ominous, but fingers crossed the weather holds out and we'll get plenty of passes in. So 9.8, 142.9 for a first run, so only get better from here.
There you go, Ma. The rains are here.
Yeah, it looks like we're one and done. Unfortunately, the testing's been cut short by rain. It's also pretty dark out. A lot of guys are starting to leave already. They haven't officially closed the track. It is actually just stopped raining now, so it may dry out, but there's a lot of standing water in the car park, and generally when the car park's wet, the track's just as wet. We'll hold out for 20 minutes or so to 100% make sure they are or aren't going to open the event up again. And yeah, we'll either pack it up or we'll throw down some more passes. So we'll wait and see.
That being said, we're going to try and dry things out here. Bear with us here. See if we can get somewhere with it. But hopefully we can defy the laws of physics.
Keen, Benny, you keen?
They said they're going to try and dry the track, man. We'll dry the car and try and get back out there.
Drag racing is taken super seriously in America. Even with rain that would shut down most Aussie tracks for a week, they work for hours to get the strip prepped and ready for more racing.
You guys like it?
Oh yeah.
It's cool?
This shit's cool, dude.
What motor
You
is
won't see
that?
this shit here in
It's a
the
Ford
United States.
Australia inline 6.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Ford Australian Straight 6.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
No, they're not. There's probably
Surprising.
10 of these in the States, and we've got 2 of them at the moment.
About 10 million in Australia.
This is like our equivalent of a modular V8. They're in like all our police cars and taxis and everything.
Good to see a few Aussies hanging around, eh?
Yeah, there's plenty of Aussies. You can tell there's Aussies around because there's beers around. They're like flies to the poop. Crack a beer and 20 Aussies appear. There's like a swarm here and there's another swarm over there. There's LSs, so there's Aussies everywhere.
How those beers going down?
Good.
You don't like my torch, do
The
you?
light's not good.
It did stop raining not long after we finished filming. All the crew here have been drying the track, which is very rare to happen for a test and tune in Australia, but these guys are obviously pretty dedicated to the sport, so they've spent probably the last 20 minutes to half an hour to drying the track. The surface is looking really good, so we're lined up now in the staging lanes ready to make another pass. So as long as nothing changes, we're basically just going to jump straight out there and make another hit. So we'll make a few slight adjustments to the launch control and see if we can go a bit quicker. In the burnout box now for our second pass of the night. At this stage the track looks pretty dry, we look pretty good. Just about to do a burnout, so we'll see how that goes. As long as everything's good, we'll chuck a pass down and see how we're travelling. Made our second pass is a lot slower, so we've run 10.2. Unfortunately, I had the launch control too high, so it actually pushed on the brake. That basically clipped the light and made the 60 foot time 1.8 something, so I actually backed off and then went again. Not ideal, but this is why we come to test meets, is to get that stuff ironed out before the race day. So every pass is good, whether it's actually a good or a bad number. It gives us an indication of if the modifications we've made are good or bad, so we can go back to the original setting or halve the setting or make adjustments based on data rather than just trying to have a stab in the dark. We just topped up the fuel as well, so hopefully we'll get another 4 or 5% of ethanol to try and bump the ethanol content up. Unfortunately, the guy I raced actually oiled down the whole lane on the left side, so hopefully the track will either close the lane or clean it up quickly so we can get another pass. Being that it's quite late at night, it's probably easier if they just shut the lane, but I guess we'll see what they do. We really want to try and get one more test pass in, but it's all going to depend on the lane. You can hear they've just got a car going through now, so hopefully they do have the lane cleaned up, but we'll see what happens. So we'll line up and just wait and hope. We've decided to call it. The starting lineup's pretty huge, so we're just going to pack it up. We're not going to bother changing the wheels and tyres over. We're just going to set it up to come back in the morning. Hopefully we'll be able to get a chassis cert and get an inspector on the car. So we're just going to basically load the trailer up, get it ready, and come back in the morning and sort everything out, and fingers crossed it all works out. See you tomorrow, guys.